orientation and the examination pattern. After that, we'll discuss about Anthropology Foundation course. In our civil services exam, we have 3 steps: preliminary exam, mains exam, and interview. Preliminary exam is just a screening in nature. Just you have to qualify in that exam. After that, you have to write mains exam. In the mains exam, one general essay paper, and 4 general studies papers will be there. Here each paper carries 250 marks. Here each paper carries 250 marks. And in the mains examination, you have to select one optional. In optional, 2 papers will be there. Each paper carries 250 marks. Total 500 marks. Total how many marks? 1750 marks. Based on the number of posts, generally in 1:2 ratio, the top in the 1:2 ratio, the top students will be, the top scorers will be called for interview. After that, interview will be held for 275 marks. That means total 2025 marks. Your total marks obtained in mains examination and interview will be considered in deciding your rank. General essay paper is common for everyone. General studies papers are common for everyone. Optional, here it varies. It depends upon the optional selected by us. We may get very good marks, sometimes we may not get good marks. That's why selection of optional is very, very important in the examination, in the civil services examination. You have to select optional carefully. It's like marriage. పెళ్ళిలాగానే అండి, ఒకసారి చేసుకున్నామంటే చాలా ఇబ్బందులు ఉంటాయి, ఎన్ని ఉన్నా అన్నింటినీ దాటుకొని పోవాలి. At the time of selecting optional, we have to take certain criteria into consideration. What are those criteria? First one is, we have to consider the syllabus, quantity of syllabus. Based on our experience, we can say that certain factors or certain criteria are playing an important role in the success with a particular option. First, quantity of syllabus. Less the quantity of the syllabus, in less quantity of time we can complete the preparation. Very simple. Less the syllabus, less time is required to complete the preparation of that optional. Apart from that, nature of questions in the last 5 to 10 years. Nature of questions. How many questions they are asking directly, how many questions they are asking indirectly. That is very, very important. If direct questions are asked, then we can give ready-made answers. If indirect questions are asked in the examination hall, we have to think and we have to frame the answer. It may kill some time. In the examination, generally in each optional you have to write answer to 19 questions. In anthropology, you have to write answer to 19 questions. 3 hours of time is not sufficient, is insufficient to write answers to all those questions. Even examiners also know about this. Only those students who have subject on the fingertips, they can succeed in writing answers to all the questions within the prescribed time period. That's why here anyone, if you give some time, they can prepare, they can recollect, and they can write answer. But they want only those aspirants or those students who have subject on the fingertips. That's why they will impose always certain limitations. They will give more number of questions. Only those students who can write, who have subject on the fingertips, they can write answers to those questions within 3 hours of time. If you want to recollect, then definitely 3 hours of time is not sufficient. In that way, UPSC would like to impose certain restrictions so that they can select those students who have subject on the fingertips. That's why we have to consider what is the nature of the questions, what type of questions that they have been asking, whether they are asking direct questions or indirect questions. Direct questions, definitely we can have ready-made answers. Indirect questions we have to think in the examination hall. Only those students who have subject on the fingertips, they can frame ready-made answers even for indirect questions also within 30 seconds of time in the examination hall. That's why we have to consider, most of the times we would like to answer direct questions. Why? Because that is easy. We can write answers directly, we can save time, so that the probability of answering all the questions is always high. That's why we have to consider how many questions they are asking directly, how many questions they are asking indirectly. Apart from that, we have to consider the nature of the subject also. Nature of the subject, whether it is static or dynamic, whether it changes depending upon the changes in the society. Say for example, if you take sociology, public administration, political science, there are a number of political developments which are going on in the society. Accordingly, you have to prepare. That means based on current affairs, more questions will be given in the examination hall. Consider mathematics, Telugu literature. Current affairs have nothing to do with that subject. Am I correct or not? That's why we have to consider nature of the subject, whether it is dynamic or static. In case of static, we need not to be thorough with all the current affairs. We need not to be thorough with the analysis of different events which are taking place in our social, economic and political system. That's why we have to consider the nature of the subject, whether it is static or dynamic. If it is static, our preparation becomes so easy. If it is dynamic, we have to read newspapers regularly, as max the number of newspapers as possible, as max the number of analysis as possible. You have to go through different debates. You have to acquire full command by following the analysis of different experts. It will be difficult for the newcomers, and at this stage it will be difficult for you. At this stage you require some guidance by seniors like us. After 40 years or 50 years of age, we can easily analyze because of experience. But at your age, it's not possible for you to analyze different events which are taking place in our society from all the dimensions. You need guidance by someone. That's why here you have to consider the nature of the subject. If it is static, then with little efforts, and there is more probability of getting more marks also in the examination hall. Why? Because analysis, if the subject is based on current affairs, you require more analysis. You have to go through more number of sources. Otherwise, you may miss some questions in the examination, so that the probability of getting more marks in the optional will be affected. If you get less marks in the optional, then your career is going to be affected. Your optional is going to decide your success. It can elevate you or it can destroy you. Only optional. There are many of my friends, I have seen many people who became IAS officers only because of optionals, who lost their careers only because of optionals. There are many people. When we were preparing for civil services, there were two optionals. In anthropology, I was one of the national toppers. My second optional, because of my medical background, I opted for zoology. In 2007, there was one person by name Adapa Karthik. He got All India first rank. He opted zoology. That is, if you take extreme rare optionals, you have to go with the flow. If you select rare optionals, the probability of success is also rare. If you select commonly opted optionals, the probability of success is also high. In anthropology, I was one of the national toppers. And by imitating our senior, we opted for zoology. He got 420 marks, I got 220 marks, 200 difference. In spite of that, I went to interview. But only because of optional, my life was reversed. That's why you have to be very careful at the time of selecting the optional. That's why you have to consider all these factors. Apart from these factors, you have to consider availability of coaching. That is also very important. Availability of coaching, availability of material, availability of post-coaching support. Not for anthropology, but with respect to any optional. All these are very important. Here there are many faculties who have been offering coaching in different optional subjects. Can you identify any faculty who has been offering coaching for engineering subjects? medical science, very rarely you can come across. If there is a proper guidance by a senior person, the probability of success is very, very high. That's why availability of coaching is very, very important. Availability of material is very, very important. After that, availability of post-coaching support. Post-coaching support means after coaching, you have to write answers. Writing practice is very, very important. In order to get more marks in the optional, 3 hours of time is not sufficient to write answers to all those questions. That's why to attempt all the questions and to get more marks, more writing practice must be there. More the writing practice, more the speed in the examination hall. More the speed in the examination hall, more the time saving. More the time saving means more the probability of writing answers to all the questions. That's why answer writing practice is also very, very important. All these factors have to be taken into considerations. This is a brief idea that I have given to you with regard to selection of optional. And nowadays, in many coaching centers, they are giving fake promotions. And in the beginning, by taking some good classes, they are attracting the students and they are paying money and they are losing their time, they are losing their money also. That's why to avoid, recently also All India third ranker Ananya Reddy, she gave one complaint also in the police station. Some coaching centers used her name, and later she came to know about that. Later she complained in the police station. To avoid all these things, we are offering foundation course at free of cost, so that you can come to know about the quality of faculty, and at the same time whether that subject suits to your requirements or your personality or not. That is the basic objective of launching this free optional foundation course by our academy. And now if we go into details, now let us start our optional. Classes will be taken in bilingual mode, both in Telugu as well as in English. Why? Because in my optional, we are going to deal with cultural aspects and societal aspects. For you, at this point of time, you might have come across the term anthropology, very popular optional, high scoring optional. What is meant by anthropology? Sociology, you can easily understand. The term itself indicates study of society. Public administration, about administration. Political science, about politics. Like this, can you infer something about anthropology? You might have come across this word frequently, but what is the term is not giving, that is not a popular term in our society, but it is also nothing but study of society. Actually, anthropology is a branch of sociology. In due course of time, because of its multidisciplinary nature, it got its own recognition. Once upon a time, it was a branch of sociology. That's why here also we'll study the society. At this point of time, for your understanding, I can tell you in the form of single sentence. Anthropology is nothing but study of evolution of man and his culture. Study of evolution of man and his culture. We'll study evolution of man and his culture. There are many definitions, but for you, as you are in the budding stage, for you this definition is sufficient. It is nothing but study of evolution of man and his culture. Like that of other optionals, in our option also there are two papers, paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 deals with anthropology in general. Anthropology in general. Paper 2 deals with anthropology in the Indian context. In many optionals, first paper is in general, second paper is in the context of India. Here also we will study anthropology in general. Here we will study anthropology in the context of India. In the first paper, there are two components. One is socio-cultural anthropology. Socio-cultural anthropology. Second one is physical anthropology. In the second paper, we'll study Indian society in general, and we'll study tribal India. In India, one of the most disadvantaged sections is nothing but tribals. That's why we are going to study tribals in detail. Actually, once upon a time, when the anthropology was in the beginning stage, when it was part and parcel of sociology, our anthropology studied only tribals. Later, in due course of time, they started studying villages, urban centers also. In due course of time, the scope of the anthropology was widened. But in the beginning, our anthropology studied only tribal people. That's why here our syllabus framers, they included tribals as a separate section in order to recognize the contributions of our early anthropologists, and at the same time in order to understand the problems of one of the most disadvantaged sections of our society. And generally in our society, certain sections are considered as weaker sections. In the recently held election campaigns also, you might have come across certain terms, SC, ST, OBC, minorities, like that. Apart from those people, there are many other weaker sections, old people, children, females, women. There are many weaker sections. But in our society, as far as the social sections are concerned, we consider SCs, STs, OBCs, minorities as the weaker sections. Here, we are going to study tribals in detail. And apart from tribals, we'll study the problems of OBCs, we'll study the problems of SCs, we'll study the problems of minorities also. That is, of course, that is part and parcel of your general studies preparation. Even if you do not take anthropology as an option, in general studies also you have to study all these things. But in our syllabus, these are the main components. Ultimately, we are going to study 4 fields or 4 sections of anthropology. One is socio-cultural anthropology, second one is physical anthropology, third one is Indian society, and fourth one is tribal India. And before going into subject details, let us discuss examination question paper pattern. Question paper pattern. In each question paper, we have 2 question papers, 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. For paper 1 question paper, for paper 2 another question paper. If you take any paper, in each paper there will be 2 sections, section A and section B. Section A, in section A 4 questions will be there. In section B also 4 questions will be there. Numbering will be like this only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And out of these 8 questions, you have to write answers to 5 questions. 5 questions. Each question carries 50 marks. 5 into 50 to 50 marks. But there are certain conditions. Conditions apply. What are those conditions? First question in section A is compulsory. First question in section B is compulsory. That means first question and fifth question are compulsory. After that, in each section, in the remaining 3 questions, you have to write answer to 1 question. You can select either this question or this question, this question. Let us assume you have selected this question. After that, from the second section also you have to select at least 1 question apart from compulsory question. Let us assume you have selected 1 question. Now total how many questions are over? 4. But we have to write answers to 5 questions. The 5th question can be selected either from section A or from section B. That means ultimately you are going to write answers to 2 questions from one section and 3 questions from another section. That means depending upon the question selected by you, you are going to give more weightage to one section, less weightage to another section. Let us assume this is paper 1. This is paper 1. In paper 1, section A covers socio-cultural anthropology. Section B covers physical anthropology. In paper 1, section A covers socio-cultural anthropology, section B covers physical anthropology. This is based on conventions. Sampradayam prakaram vastundi. This is not a rule. This is not specified anywhere in our notification. If the UPSC wants to jumble the questions, they can jumble it. They can mix the questions of this section in this section as well as the questions of this section in this section also. But conventionally, they are asking questions from socio-cultural anthropology in section A of paper 1, questions from physical anthropology in the section B of paper 1. Similarly, with respect to paper 2, in paper 2 also, in section A, questions will be asked on Indian society in general. In section B, questions will be asked from tribal India. That means simply this is paper 1, section A, section B. This is paper 2, section A, section B. Very simple. Is that clear? Okay. Now see. In the compulsory question, again, there will be splitting. Sub questions will be there. 5 sub questions will be there. 1, 1, 1, 1. 5 questions. All questions are compulsory. They will give 5 questions. You have to write answers to all those questions. Each question carries 10 marks. Here also, similarly, in the second section also, again there will be splitting. 5 sub questions will be there. Each question carries 10 marks. Total 50 marks. Then in the remaining questions, in every question again there will be 3 sub questions. A, B, C. One question carries 20 marks, another question carries 15 marks, another question carries 15 marks. If we select, look at here. If you select this question, you have to write answers to all these 3 questions. Similarly, here also. If we select any question, within that question, whatever may be the sub questions, you have to write answers to all those sub questions. If you know answers to these 2 questions and if you do not know answer to this question, and again you have to consider other questions. Based on your knowledge, you can select any one question. But in each question again there will be sub questions. Now see, this is compulsory question and this is compulsory question. Now each question carries 10 marks. How many 10 marks questions are there now? You have to write answer in the examination hall. 10. 10 marks questions are 10. Then you have to write 2 questions from one section, 1 question from another section in the non-compulsory section. Now in each question there are 2 15 marks question and 1 20 marks question. How many non-compulsory questions you have to answer? 3. And in each question 1 20 marks question and 2 15 marks question. That means you have to write 3 20 marks questions and 6 15 marks questions. Total how many questions are there? 19 questions. Ultimately, you have to write answers to 19 questions. Generally, for a 10 marks question, you have to write answer in 100 to 150 words. 100 to 150 words. For 15 marks question, you have to write answer in 200 words. 200 to 250. For 20 marks question, you have to write answer in 250 to 300 words. we calculate an average for writing answer to one 10 marks question. You require 6 minutes of time in the examination. It is roughly in between 6 to 7 minutes, but in the first 15 minutes or 10 minutes will waste time to go through the entire question paper. క్వశ్చన్ పేపర్ ఈజీగా వచ్చిందా టఫ్గా వచ్చిందా నీకు ఏ క్వశ్చన్స్కి ఆన్సర్స్ వచ్చు అని చూసుకోవడానికి ఒక 5-10 నిమిషాలు వేస్ట్ చేస్తారు. ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ 5 to 10 minutes of time will be wasted. That's why if you consider an average, will be getting 6 minutes of time to write answer to one 10 marks question. In anthropology or Indian society or in sociology, whatever it may be, the concepts, as we are Indians, we know many concepts. Caste system, the influence of caste in politics. Recently elections are held in both Andhra Pradesh and Telangana states. You know the importance of caste in the elections. Even today also, after the elections also, people are quarreling with each other. Battles are going on in the Palnadu region. Am I correct or not? Based on caste only. That's why you know about the content, but here the challenge is to channelize all your content in 6 minutes of time by covering all the dimensions of that particular concept. That's why to cover all the dimensions and to write all the topics or all the points in 6 minutes of time is a challenging task. Whenever we listen a particular topic in anthropology or sociology, if you don't feel difficulty in understanding that particular concept, you might have come across certain words, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. వినే ఉంటారు చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి. యాజ్ వీఆర్ ఇండియన్స్, డెఫినెట్లీ దీస్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ వర్ ఇన్కల్కేటెడ్ స్ట్రాంగ్లీ ఇన్ అవర్ మైండ్స్ ఇన్ ది ప్రాసెస్ ఆఫ్ సోషలైజేషన్. చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి పెరిగేటప్పుడు మనకు తెలియకుండానే మన మైండ్స్ ఇవన్నీ బాగా నాటేసి ఉంటారు. వీటిని మనం పురుషార్థాస్ అనే పేరుతో పిలుస్తాం. వీ కాల్ ధర్మ, అర్ధ, కామ అండ్ మోక్ష యాజ్ పురుషార్థాస్. పురుషార్థ is the topic in our syllabus and most of the times it will be given for 10 marks. Whenever I explain that particular topic, you feel so comfortable. What is meant by Ardha? Ardha stands for money. Money required for certain purposes in our life. For maintenance of the family, for imparting education to the children, to perform pujas, yajnas, sacrifices, to help other members, like that. You know, you can easily understand. Kama, sex desire, satisfaction is essential to produce the children and perpetuation of human race. And you have to acquire both Ardha, money, and Kama by following the path of Dharma, by following the right path. You can easily understand. There is nothing difficult in it to understand. But to write, whenever you achieve Ardha and Kama by following the path of Dharma, you will be eligible to get moksha according to Hindu philosophy. Okay, whether it is rational, irrational, forget about it. But if the question is asked, you have to write about all those concepts. What is meant by Dharma, what is meant by Ardha, what is meant by Kama, what is meant by Moksha. You can easily understand whenever we explain, or if you read by yourself, you can easily understand. Understanding is not a difficult task, but if a question is asked, you have to channelize that content within 6 minutes of time. You have to write answer to that question in 6 minutes of time. That is the challenging task. ధర్మార్థ కామ మోక్ష నేను చెప్తే మీకు అర్థం కాకపోవడం అనేది నేను కాదు, ఎవరు చెప్పినా అది అర్థమైపోతుంది. కాకపోతే ఎగ్జామినేషన్ మనకు ఛాలెంజ్ ఏంటి? మనకున్న టైం ఎంత? 6 minutes. వీ హ్యావ్ టు రైట్ ఆన్సర్స్ టు సచ్ టాపిక్స్ ఇన్ 6 minutes of time. In such circumstances, we should know what are the points that are to be mentioned, what are the points that are to be avoided. Limitations are very, very important. అదే ఎవరి గురించో చెప్తూ, జీవితంలో పరుగు ఆపడం అనేది ఒక కళ అని చెప్పేసి చెప్తా ఉంటారు. ఇప్పుడు మీరు కొండ మెట్లు ఎక్కారనుకోండి, ఎక్కేటప్పుడు ఈజీగా ఎక్కుతారు, దిగేటప్పుడు స్పీడ్ కంట్రోల్ చేసుకోకపోతే ఏమవుతుంది? పడిపోతారు. అట్లాగే ఇక్కడ కూడా ఏంటంటే సబ్జెక్టు ఎక్కువైనా కూడా ఎక్కడ ఆపాలి తెలియడం అనేది ఇంపార్టెంట్. వీ షుడ్ నో టు వాట్ ఎక్స్టెంట్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ ఏ పర్టికులర్ కాన్సెప్ట్. వాట్ ఆర్ ది పాయింట్స్ దట్ ఆర్ టు బి మెన్షన్డ్, వాట్ ఆర్ ది పాయింట్స్ దట్ ఆర్ టు బి అవాయిడెడ్, and how to write constructive sentences. Constructive sentences means if you write one sentence, through that sentence you can give maximum information. I will tell you what are the constructive sentences at a later point of time. Like this guidance is required. Whenever you know about this guidance, then only you can give very good answer, then only you can crack the exam. You can save a lot of time in the examination hall, and you can impress the examiner also. You can manage the time and you can write answers to all the questions. The probability of getting 330 or more than 300 marks is very, very high. That is very, very important. Now in this class, we are from now onwards, we are going into the subjects, and I'm going to explain the basic components of most important topics of our anthropology. In anthropology, we'll study social cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, Indian society, and tribal India. We'll study all these components, and I'll give you framework and the foundation concept, the basic concepts I'll explain. Okay, if you feel that this optional suits to your personality, suits to your background, then you can take one decision. And meanwhile, you can judge the quality of our classes also. Accordingly, you can take one decision. Okay, in order to facilitate one informed decision making by the students. Information is wealth. Based on information, if you take one decision, then there will be value to that decision. That's why, to avoid wastage of time, to avoid wastage of your money, and to get a right coaching or right guidance at right point of time, that is also very, very important. ఒక 5 ఏళ్ళు పోయిన తర్వాత కోచింగ్ సెంటర్లో పోయి కూర్చోవాలంటే మీకు కూడా వల్ల కాదు. మీ జూనియర్స్ చాలా మంది వస్తారు, ఈయన ఇంకా కోచింగ్ తీసుకుంటారని రకరకాల జనాలు అంటుంటారు. ఇట్లా టైం అనేది వేస్ట్ కాకుండా ఉండాలి. దట్స్ వై విత్ దట్ ఆబ్జెక్టివ్ ఓన్లీ వీ హ్యావ్ లాంచ్డ్ దిస్ ఫౌండేషన్ కోర్స్. Now we'll go directly into the syllabus. Okay, first we'll start socio-cultural anthropology. Actually, in paper 1, we have 12 chapters. First chapter is nothing but introduction, evolution of man and his culture. Second chapter deals with our society and culture. Society, culture. Society is nothing but a group of people with interpersonal relationship. A group of people with a particular set of interpersonal relationship. And the design of that culture, the design of that interpersonal relationship is nothing but culture. ఎవరితో ఎలా బిహేవ్ చేయాలి అనేది మన కల్చర్. మనం ఎవరన్నా సరిగ్గా బిహేవ్ చేయలేకపోతే, ఒక అమ్మాయితో మిస్బిహేవ్ చేసాను, కల్చర్లెస్ బ్రూట్ అనో రకరకాలుగా తిడతారు. అంటే ఎవరితో ఎలా బిహేవ్ చేయాలో కూడా తెలియకపోతే కల్చర్లెస్ ఫెలో అంటుంటారు. అంటే కల్చర్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ డిజైన్ ఆఫ్ అవర్ లివింగ్, హౌ టు లివ్ in our society with the remaining members of the society. Society is nothing but a group of people with a particular interpersonal relationship. That interpersonal relationship will be decided by whom? Culture. Understood? What is meant by society? What is meant by culture? Society is nothing but a group of people with a specific interpersonal relationship, or a group of people interlinked, or a group of people in a web of social relationship. All the people are linked to each other because of social relationship. Those social relations will be decided by whom? Our culture. And apart from that, we'll study important aspects of our society. They are nothing but marriage, family, and kinship. Marriage, family, and kinship. I need not explain what is meant by marriage, what is meant by family. Kinship is nothing but relationship. We have two types of relatives. Some relatives who are related to us because of blood relationship. Some people who are related to us because of marriage. I have brother, I have sister, I have father, mother, all these are blood relatives. Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law. I don't have any blood relationship with those people. In spite of that, I have relations. They are relatives to me because of marriage. Like this totality of relationship based on blood relationship based on marriage constitute kinship. Marriage, family, kinship. In second chapter, we're going to study society, culture, marriage, family, and kinship. In the third chapter, we'll study economic anthropology. Economic anthropology. In economic anthropology, we'll study economy in the context of culture. In your general studies, you will come across one subject, economy. In economy, you take any topic, ultimately that is related to production, distribution and consumption of goods and services. మీరు చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి 6th class నుంచి చూసుకుంటూ వస్తే ultimately we are going to study only these 4 concepts: production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. And to facilitate these production, distribution, consumption of goods and services, we have developed a number of systems, whether it is banking or a political system, whatever it may be. Now, this production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services will be studied in the cultural context. Cultural context means our cultural relations are going to influence the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Say, for example, you may be charged with a particular fees for attending classes in a particular coaching center. Say, for example, my classes. The fees may be 30 or 40 or 50, whatever it may be. But if my brother's son is attending classes, is it possible for me to charge? నేను నా అన్న కొడుకు క్లాసులకు వస్తే లేదు నువ్వు కూడా 30,000 కట్టాలి 50,000 కట్టాలి అన్నానుకో ఏమవుతుంది? సొంత బాబాయ్ ఏంటి కూడా నా దగ్గర డబ్బులు తీసుకుంటున్నాడు చూడ అంటారు, అవునా కాదా? అంటే our relations are going to influence the production, distribution and consumption of goods and services. That's why here we are going to study that economy in the context of culture. That is nothing but economic anthropology. Similarly, political anthropology. We'll study political systems or politics in the context of culture. Very simply, we have one procedure to elect our representatives. మనం చెప్పుకుంటున్న ప్రపంచంలోనే పెద్ద డెమోక్రసీ మంది, ఇండియా ఇస్ ది బిగ్గెస్ట్ డెమోక్రసీ, మదర్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ డెమోక్రసీస్ అని అందరూ చెప్పుకుంటాము. వీ హ్యావ్ one particular set of electoral process also. But in spite of all those rules and regulations, at the time of casting votes in the elections, will give importance to cultural sentiments. If there is death of one leader, his son will be recognized as the next representative by the society, whether it is sympathy or whatever it may be, based on cultural conditions. Generally, see here, whatever may be the state, here KTR sir is considered as the next successor of KCR sir. Even though KCR sir has a daughter. Am I correct or not? For Rajiv Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, one son and one daughter, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi was given preference. Even if you go to Andhra Pradesh, also same situation. Jagan Mohan Reddy, Sharmila. Who was recognized by the public? Jagan Mohan Reddy. Am I correct or not? People, based on their sentiments, they cast their votes. They give more. Our society is basically patriarchal society. Male is considered as head of the family and entire property, and most of the times, of course, now there are new rules and regulations and laws to facilitate equal share for both males and females, or sons and daughters, in the parental property or whatever it may be. But people give importance like that only. People give importance to a particular political leader based on the position held by his father most of the times, or the particular political status of a father will be descended downwards along the son's line. Am I correct or not? Most of the times కూతుర్లకి ఏమైనా ఇచ్చినా కూడా ఇస్తారు, బట్ నాట్ సో ఇంపార్టెంట్ పొజిషన్, ఓన్లీ అదర్ పొజిషన్. ది ప్రియారిటీ విల్ బి గివెన్ టు సన్స్ ఓన్లీ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది టైమ్స్. That means based on our cultural sentiments only, we'll give preference to certain leaders, or we'll give preference to a particular descendant line, or we'll cast our votes in the elections. That's why here also we'll study how the culture is going to affect political system. We are going to study quality in the context of culture. The next chapter is religious anthropology. Here we'll study religion in detail, religious anthropology. Religion is nothing but belief system. How different belief systems came into existence. We are going to study what are the different belief systems and how they came into existence. After that, sixth chapter, forget about sixth chapter, seventh chapter, linguistic anthropology. Linguistic anthropology. Even language is also considered as part and parcel of our culture. If someone offends your language, definitely you will get lot of angry. మన భాషను ఎవడన్నా కామెంట్ చేశారంటే మనకు భయంకరమైన కోపం వస్తుంది. Because language is considered as part and parcel of our culture. Even the national leaders also at the time of starting their campaigns, election campaigns, they start their speech in the region, in different states, in the regional languages. అది మోడీ గారు కావచ్చు, ఇంకొకరు కావచ్చు, వచ్చినప్పుడు నమస్తే తెలంగాణ అని ఏదో ఒకటి తెలుగులో పదం వాడతారు. వై? బికాస్ దే వాంట్ టు ఐడెంటిఫై దెమ్సెల్స్ విత్ ది పీపుల్ ఆఫ్ తెలంగాణ ఆర్ పీపుల్ ఆఫ్ ఆంధ్ర ఆర్ పీపుల్ ఆఫ్ కర్ణాటక, వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇట్ మే బి. Why? Because we'll consider language as highly sensitive issue. If someone offends our language, definitely we'll get lot of angry. Why? Because language is considered as part and parcel of our culture. If someone offends our culture, definitely we'll get lot of angry. Here we are going to study linguistic anthropology, language in the context of culture, how the language came into existence, what are the functions of language, and how the language use changes depending upon the context. Depending upon the context, that is very, very important. Language use changes depending upon the context. Consider me. As long as I am there, I am here in a class, I'll use more professional language. Am I correct or not? Definitely, if I go to my native place, if I meet my childhood friends, then some unparliamentary words also may come out of my mouth. Am I correct or not? Definitely, depending upon the context, depending upon the presence of elders, depending upon the presence of opposite gender, definitely our language will be changed. పక్కన మన అమ్మ నాన్న ఉన్నారా, లేకపోతే ఇంకొక అమ్మాయి ఉందా, ముసలాళ్ళు ఉన్నారా, చిన్నపిల్లలు ఉన్నారా అనే దాన్ని బట్టి మన లాంగ్వేజ్ వాడడం మారిపోతుంది. అవునా కాదా? Like this, we are going to study how the use of language changes depending upon the context. That is linguistic anthropology. After that, research methods. Research methods. Now we came to know about the presence of, here in the study of these topics, we'll study different marriage practices, different types of marriage payments, different family practices, different family systems, different economic systems, political systems, religions, all those things. How we came to know about this. As far as your knowledge is concerned at this point of time, you may be knowing about monogamy, polygamy, polygyny, even polyandry also. Polygynandry. Polygynandry means multiple husbands, multiple wives. Group marriages. A group of males will be married to a group of females. We'll discuss now. Wait for some time. Different marriage practices are there. Like this, how we came to know about all these practices which are there in Brazil, which are there in Nilagiri Hills, because of the research conducted by our ancestors. At the time of conducting research, we have to be careful. How to conduct research, how to avoid errors at the time of collecting data. If you want to know about the political system of Andhra or the factors that influence electoral outcome, if you rely on Eenadu newspaper, you will get one type of understanding. If you rely on Sakshi newspaper, you will get one type of understanding. Am I correct or not? Here the intention of the person who has been providing information, that is very, very important. వాడు ఏ ఉద్దేశంతో ఒక ఆర్టికల్ రాశాడని చాలా 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 ఇంపార్టెంట్. వాడు జగన్కి ఫేవర్గా చేశాడనుకో, పథకాలని బాగా అమలు అవుతున్నాయి, చాలా మందికి బెనిఫిట్ అయింది అంటాడు. అట్లా కానీ జగన్ తిట్టాడనుకో, ఏం జరగలేదు అది ఇది అని చెప్పేసి అంటుంటారు. అవునా కదా? That's why the intention of the person who has been providing information, that is also very, very important. That's why at the time of conducting research, how to conduct research and what are the sources that can be relied upon, and how to understand that information, how to present our understanding in the form of one data outcome, that means in the form of one report. All those things will be studied here. During the process of this research, based on the experience, our anthropologists they concluded certain conclusions based on experience. ఇప్పుడు మీరు క్లాస్ వచ్చిన వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు, ఈ టైంకి కొంతమందికి కొంత ఐడియా వచ్చి ఉంటుంది, ఏంది సారు ఎట్లా చెప్తాడు, కొంత ఐడియా వచ్చి ఉంటుంది, అవునా కాదా? మీ కంక్లూజన్ కరెక్ట్ కావచ్చు, కాకపోవచ్చు, అవునా కాదా? అట్లాగే ఇంకా సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇప్పుడు ఎలక్షన్స్ జరుగుతున్నాయి, పాలిటిక్స్ చూస్తే క్యాస్ట్ రోల్ ఉంది అని కొంతమంది అంటారు, లేదని కొంతమంది అంటారు. ఎడ్యుకేటెడ్ పీపుల్ రోల్ ఉందని కొంతమంది అంటారు, లేదని కొంతమంది అంటారు. ఎడ్యుకేటెడ్ పీపుల్ బాగా ఎగనెస్ట్గా ఉన్నా అంటారు, కానీ వాళ్ళు ఓట్లు వేయడానికి రారు అని కొంతమంది అంటారు. వీటిలో కొంత కరెక్ట్ ఉంటుంది, కొంత తప్పు ఉంటుంది. ఎడ్యుకేటెడ్ పీపుల్ 100% ఎలక్షన్లో ఓట్ వేయకుండా ఉంటారా? లేదు, కొంతమంది పోతారు. అందరూ లేజీనా? కాదు. అట్లా ఒక్కొక్కరు ఒపీనియన్ ఒకలా ఉంటుంది. లైక్ దిస్ హియర్ ది ఒపీనియన్స్ వ్యారీ, ది కంక్లూజన్స్ వ్యారీ. Here also our anthropologists, after studying number of societies, they came to conclusions with regard to origin of culture. అసలు కల్చర్ ఎలా పుట్టుకొచ్చింది, హౌ కల్చర్ కేమ్ ఇన్ టు ఎగ్జిస్టెన్స్, హౌ ఇట్ హ్యాస్ స్ప్రెడ్ ఫ్రమ్ వన్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది సొసైటీ టు అనదర్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది సొసైటీ, అండ్ హౌ టు స్టడీ ఏ సొసైటీ, హౌ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ ఏ పర్టికులర్ సొసైటీ. ఇన్ ఈచ్ సొసైటీ కల్చర్ ఆపరేట్స్ త్రూ సెటన్ సింబల్స్. చాలా సినిమాల్లో చూసుంటారు, రజనీకాంత్ గారు లేకపోతే ఎవరో ఒకరు టవల్ తీసి ఎట్లా వేసుకుంటే ఒక మీనింగ్, ఆ తర్వాత కింద పడేస్తే ఒక మీనింగ్, రకరకాల మీనింగ్స్ ఉంటాయి, అవునా కాదా? అట్లాగే వీ హ్యావ్ సర్టన్ సింబల్స్ ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు ఫెసిలిటేట్ స్మూత్ ఇంటర్పర్సనల్ రిలేషన్షిప్ ఆర్ ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు ఫెసిలిటేట్ ప్రాపర్ వర్కింగ్ ఆఫ్ అవర్ సొసైటీ. ఈవెన్ కన్సిడర్ సర్టన్ ఫీమేల్స్. జనరల్గా మీరంటే స్టార్టింగ్ స్టేజ్లో ఉన్నారు, అయితే కొన్ని రోజులు అయిన తర్వాత కోచింగ్ సెంటర్లకు వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఒక అమ్మాయిని వచ్చిందనుకో, అబ్బాయికి ఫస్ట్ చూపు ఎక్కడికి పోద్ది అంటే కాళ్ళ దగ్గరికి పోద్ది, పెళ్ళి అయిందా లేదా అని. పెళ్ళి అయితే ఇంకా అమ్మాయికి ట్రై చేయడం వేస్ట్ కదా, అవునా కదా? పెళ్ళి కాకపోతే అమ్మాయికి ట్రై చేస్తే లెక్క వేరు, అవునా కదా? లైక్ దిస్ certain symbols are there to facilitate smooth functioning of the society. Atlage if you want to jump the signal, if there is a person with police uniform, you won't jump the signal. Am I correct or not? Even if there is a police person without uniform, we won't consider him as a police person, we'll jump the signal. Am I correct or not? That color is a symbol. Stethoscope is a symbol. Black color dress is a symbol for lawyer. Like this, there are symbols. Based on those symbols, our behavior will be changed. That's why if you want to understand a particular society, you have to study the symbols also. You have to study the meanings assigned to those symbols also. Like this, their opinions, different anthropologists have different opinions with regard to origin of culture, how to study a culture, how to understand a culture. All those conclusions were mentioned in the 6th chapter as anthropological theories. Anthropological theories. Theories are nothing but stories based on the experience of the concerned person. మేము చెప్తా ఉంటాం, we used to say that these are the criteria that are to be considered at the time of selecting optional. But these are not always correct. Based on our experience we are telling. ఎప్పుడు స్మాల్ క్వాంటిటీ ఆఫ్ సిలబస్ పనిచేస్తుందా? నో. Sometimes if a particular subject has a very small quantity of syllabus, then in order to make the subject tough or in order to make the question paper tough, they will ask more in-depth questions. Sometimes 1 year you may come across a bouncers also in the examination. అందుకని జనరల్ ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ చెప్తాం, అవి కరెక్ట్ కావచ్చు, ఒక్కోసారి ఎక్సెప్షన్స్ ఉండొచ్చు. సిమిలర్లీ హియర్ ఆల్సో థియరీస్ మేము చెప్తా ఉంటాము, మీరు ఎన్ని రోజులు ప్రిపేర్ అయినా దయచేసి ఎగ్జామ్లో అటెంప్ట్ ఇవ్వద్దు, మీకు ఫుల్ కమాండ్ వచ్చే వరకు అంటాం. మేము చెప్పిన ఎనరు కొంతమంది ఏం చేస్తారంటే ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ వస్తుంది, ఒకసారి రాద్దాం ఏం పోద్ది అంటారు. రాస్తే అక్కడ ఒక కౌంట్ అవుతుంది. మనం చేసిన పాపాలకు చిత్రగుప్తుడు ఎట్లా కౌంట్ చేస్తాడో అట్లా అక్కడ యూపీఎస్సీ కౌంట్ చేస్తుంది. నువ్వు ఇంటర్వ్యూకి పోతే ఇంటర్వ్యూలోకి నువ్వు ఎప్పుడు ఎన్నో అటెంప్ట్లు ఇంటర్వ్యూకి పోయా కన్సిడర్ చేస్తారు. నువ్వు థర్డ్ అటెంప్ట్లో ఇంటర్వ్యూకి పోయాడు, వీడు 3 ఏళ్ళ నుంచి ప్రిపేర్ అవుతుండే ఇప్పుడు వచ్చాడులే అంటాడు. అట్లాంటి ఫస్ట్ అటెంప్ట్లో ఇంటర్వ్యూకి పోయావు అనుకోండి, అప్పుడు ఒక తప్పు చెప్పినా కూడా ఇంటర్వ్యూలో ఫస్ట్ అటెంప్ట్లో వచ్చాడులే అని చెప్పేసి కన్సిడర్ చేస్తారు. అని మీరు కూడా అంతే కదా, ఒక పెద్దోడు తప్పు చేస్తే తిడతారు, చిన్నపిల్లడు తప్పు చేస్తే చిన్నపిల్లడు కదా అని వదిలేస్తారు, అవునా కదా? అట్లా మేము కూడా మా ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ బేస్ చేసుకొని చెప్తాము. మీ ఏజ్ కాదు, నంబర్ ఆఫ్ ఇయర్స్ ఆఫ్ ప్రిపరేషన్, హైదరాబాద్ ఆర్ ఢిల్లీ ఆర్ బెంగళూరు వాట్ ఎవర్ ఇట్ మేబీ, అది కాదు ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఫస్ట్ అటెంప్ట్లో ఇంటర్వ్యూకి వెళ్ళామా లేదా, ఫుల్ ప్రిపరేషన్ కాకపోతే ఎగ్జామే రాయొద్దు అని చెప్తా ఉంటాం. ఇది కరెక్టా అంటే ఎక్కడ యూపీఎస్సీ నోటిఫికేషన్లో రాయాల ఫస్ట్ అటెంప్ట్ వాళ్ళకి ప్రిఫరెన్స్ ఇస్తారని, బట్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ అవర్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్. ఇట్లా ఏ కాంక్రీట్ ప్రూఫ్ లేకుండా బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ చెప్తారు చూడండి, ఇవే కథలు లేదా థియరీస్. ఆల్ దోస్ థియరీస్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు స్టడీ. And after that, all these 8 chapters Questions from all these 8 chapters will be given in section A of paper 1. Section A of paper 1. That means 1 to 8 chapters. In paper 1, in section A, questions from first 8 chapters will be given. In paper 2, apart from these 8 chapters, 4 more chapters are there, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those questions from those 4 chapters will be given in section B. That means in paper 1 section A, the first 8 chapters of paper 1 will be covered. In paper 2 section B, in the examination, the questions from 9 to 12 chapters will be given. This is based on conventions, not a rule. They can sometimes change. The 9th chapter deals with genetics. The 9th chapter deals with genetics. 10th chapter deals with growth and development. 11th chapter deals with demographic physical anthropology. 12th chapter deals with applied physical anthropology. All these 4 chapters are called physical anthropology. Physical anthropology. We'll study evolution of man and his culture based on biological limitations. We did not evolve our culture at our discretion. మనకి ఎట్లా అంటే అట్లా మన కల్చర్ని డెవలప్ చేయాల. బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ది లిమిటేషన్స్ ఇంపోజ్డ్ బై అవర్ బాడీ వీ డెవలప్డ్ అవర్ కల్చర్. ఫుడ్ ఏదంటే అది ఎప్పుడంటే అప్పుడు తింటామా లేదు. సమ్మర్లో చికెన్ తినాలనుకున్నారనుకోండి, మీ పేరెంట్స్ చెప్తారు చికెన్ వద్దు వేడి అంటుంటారు. అట్లా సమ్మర్ ఉందనుకోండి, సమ్మర్లో రకరకాల డ్రింక్స్ తీసుకుంటాము. దానివల్ల ఏంటి, వాటర్ కంటెంట్ బాడీలోకి పోయేటట్టు, సాల్ట్ కంటెంట్ బాడీలోకి పోయేటట్టు తీసుకుంటాం. That means we developed our food habits, we developed our dress patterns based on the limitations imposed by our body. That means we have developed our culture also based on biological limitations. That's why we'll study human beings from the biological perspective. Whatever the changes that were brought about during the course of evolution, they were handed over from one generation to another generation through genes. In my body there are certain genes. Those genes are handed over to next generation. Like this, over a period of time, over a period of millions of years of time, environmental changes were there on our planet. Accordingly, there were number of adjustments in our body. Those adjustments were handed over to the next generation through genes. That's why we are going to study genes, how they will be transmitted from one generation to another generation, how they undergo different changes. We'll study. That is genetics. Study of genes is called genetics. And after that, growth and development. In the life of a human being, there are different stages. What are the different changes in our body? And accordingly, we have to develop certain relations also. We have developed certain relations also. That's why we study what are the different stages in the life of a human being. Many people do not know these changes. Because of lack of awareness on these changes, there is lack of peace at home also. I will tell you how. జనరల్గా పెళ్ళైన తర్వాత భార్య వంట చేస్తే భర్త బాగుంది అంటాడు. అఫ్కోర్స్ బాగున్నా బాగాలేకపోయినా బాగుంది అనాలి. సరే బాగుంది అనుకోండి, తర్వాత అత్తగారికి పెడితే అత్తగారు బాగానే ఉందిలే అంటారు. ఫ్రమ్ దెన్ ఆన్వర్డ్స్ డిస్కంటెంట్ విల్ బి అక్యుములేటెడ్. అప్పటి నుంచి అసంతృప్తి అనేది కొద్ది అక్యుములేట్ అవుతూ వస్తుంది. అది ఏదో ఒక రోజు బర్స్ట్ అయిపోద్ది. అటు తల్లిని కాదనలేడు, ఇటు భార్యని కాదనలేడు. ఇద్దరి మధ్య ఎవరు వస్తాడు? భర్త వస్తాడు. అవునా కదా? మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ది టైమ్ దిస్ హ్యాపెన్స్. బట్ దెర్ ఈజ్ వన్ లాజిక్ హియర్. యాజ్ ఏజ్ అడ్వాన్సెస్, by the time of marriage of the son, by the time of arrival of one daughter-in-law, and that mother-in-law's age will be around 45, 50, 55 like that. అంటే కొడుకు పెళ్ళి కోడలు ఇంటికి వచ్చే టైంకి ఆ వయసు ఎంత ఉంటుంది, ఒక 45, 50, 55 ఉంటుంది. By that time the taste buds which are there on the tongue undergo degeneration, అంటే చిన్నగా సైజ్ తగ్గిపోయి అవి పెద్ద పని చేయవన్నట్టు. That's why they may not perceive the taste very well like that of her son, like that of their children. అందుకని భర్తకు నచ్చుతుంది కానీ వాళ్ళ అమ్మకు మాత్రం నచ్చకపోవచ్చు, ఎందుకంటే ఆ టేస్ట్ బడ్స్ అన్ని అట్రఫ్ అయిపోయి చిన్న చిన్నవి అయిపోయి ఉంటాయి. కాబట్టి వీడికి నచ్చినంత బాగా వాళ్ళ అమ్మకు నచ్చదు. ఇది తెలియక ఏమవుద్ది, నేను చేస్తే మా ఆయనకేమో బాగుంది, మా అత్తకేమో నచ్చట్లేదు. అప్పుడు భర్త అనేవాడికి తెలిస్తే ఇది సిచ్యువేషన్ చెప్పానుకో, అప్పుడు ఇంట్లో అత్త కోళ్ళ మధ్య గొడవలు రాకుండా ఉంటాయి. అవునా కదా? లైక్ దిస్ certain biological changes are taking place in our body. Accordingly, we have developed a number of adjustments and we have made number of cultural adjustments also. First of all, in order to understand the culture, first of all, you should know what are the changes that are taking place in our body at different points of time in our lifespan. At the time of summer or winter, most of the times, either children or old people die. Summer వచ్చిందనుకోండి, సమ్మర్ సన్ స్ట్రోక్ తగిలి వడదెబ్బ తగిలి 30 మంది చనిపోయారంటే దాంట్లో 25 మంది ముసలోళ్ళే ఉంటారు. వై? బికాస్ ది కాంపెన్సేటరీ మెకానిజమ్స్, అడ్జస్టింగ్ మెకానిజమ్స్, దే విల్ బికమ్ హైలీ ఇన్ఎఫెక్టివ్ ఇన్ ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్. ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ అడ్జస్ట్మెంట్ కెపాసిటీ ఉండదు కాబట్టి ఏమవుతుందంటే వాళ్ళు ఈజీగా ఆ సన్ స్ట్రోక్ గురవుతారు. నేను పోయి గంట ఎండలో తిరిగి వస్తే ఏం కాదు, మా నాన్నగారు పోయి 70 ఏళ్ళ వయసులో ఎండలో తిరిగి వచ్చాను 2 గంటలు, దెబ్బకు మంచాన్ని పడతాడు. అవునా కాదా? అంటే అడ్జస్టింగ్ కెపాసిటీ. లైక్ దిస్, ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ హౌ వీ హ్యావ్ డిజైన్డ్ ఏ పర్టికులర్ వే ఆఫ్ లైఫ్. అందుకని మనము 60 ఏళ్ళు దాటంగానే వాళ్ళకి రిటైర్మెంట్ అని ఇస్తాం. ఎందుకు ఇస్తామంటే ఆ వయసు దాటిన తర్వాత ఇంక వాళ్ళు ఎక్కువ తిరగడం మంచిది కాదు, అడ్జస్టింగ్ కెపాసిటీ తగ్గుతుంది. సో టు అండర్స్టాండ్ ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్ యూ మస్ట్ నో what are the different stages in the life of a human being and how all these changes are taking place because of certain reactions in our body. You must know. After that, demographic physical anthropology. Demography means related to population. How the population size is controlled. The biological aspects of population size will be discussed. That means a reproductive system will study. The size of a population will be decided by birth rate and death rate, incoming and outgoing. అవునా కదా? ఎంతమంది పుడతారు, ఎంతమంది చనిపోతారు, దాన్ని బట్టే ఉంటుంది. That's why in order to understand, we have to study reproductive system, social, economic and political factors also. In every 1 month, females, after the attainment of reproductive maturity, they release one ovum, egg. And males, whenever there is sexual intercourse between males and females, there will be fusion of sperm with ovum, then there will be formation of zygote and pregnancy. And that is a natural cycle in the life of a female. That's why if they participate in regular sexual intercourse, on an average, generally, if there is realization of 100% potential, then they will produce 35 children. Is it happening in reality? 10 years call maturity వస్తే 45 years వరకు menopause ఉంటుంది. In between, regular menstruation will be there. Every month they can become pregnant if they participate in sexual intercourse, and one pregnancy lasts for about 9 months, and for recovery 3 months. Like that, every year 1 child. If you produce like that, you have to produce nearly 35 children. And if there are twins or triplets, it may cross 40 also. But this is the potential. But is this potential realized? No. Why? Because there are certain social factors, certain economic factors, certain political factors. 10 మందిని కంటే గవర్నమెంటే ఒప్పుకోదు. గవర్నమెంట్ ఇంపోజెస్ సర్టన్ రెస్ట్రిక్షన్స్. ఎలక్షన్లో పోటీ చేయడానికి లేదు, ఆ తర్వాత ఇంక్రిమెంట్లు పోతాయి, బోనస్లు పోతాయి. గవర్నమెంట్ ఎంప్లాయీస్కి అయితే రకరకాల రెస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఇట్ డిపెండ్స్ అపాన్ ది సొసైటీ. చైనాలో అయితే కంపల్సరీ ఎన్ఫోర్స్మెంట్ ఉంటుంది, 1 చైల్డ్ ఆర్ నో చైల్డ్ అంతే. మన దగ్గర కూడా ఒకప్పుడు 3, తర్వాత 2 అయింది. అవునా కదా? లైక్ దిస్, certain social factors, economic factors, political factors, they influence the realization of the actual reproductive potential. We are going to study all those factors. What is the actual reproductive potential? What are the social factors? What are the economic factors? What are the political factors? We are going to study. After that, finally, our knowledge will be utilized for the sake of welfare of our society. That is nothing but applied physical anthropology. we use the knowledge attained by us during the study of genetics or the remaining contents, remaining components. We may settle medico legal cases. We may develop new techniques for the welfare of human beings. To solve medico legal cases, to identify, to deliver justice in case of rape and that female becoming pregnant after the rape. Delivery of judgment depends upon the parentage determination. To solve immigration cases, parentage determination is required. Identification of criminals in a crime. Like this, the knowledge attained by us will be utilized for solving many medico legal cases and for the welfare of human society. We developed recombinant DNA technology. Based on this recombinant DNA technology, now we are producing safer vaccines. Because of safer vaccine, side effects are very, very less. Like that, the knowledge gained by us during the study of genetics and other biological aspects, we are going to use it for solving many medico legal cases and for the welfare of human society. That is applied physical anthropology. And many aspirants, they may be in dilemma. Because of this physical anthropology, doctors or the people with medical background may get certain advantage. Yes, that may be correct. But the problem here is, I told you in the beginning, in the examination, you have to write ultimately answers to 19 questions. Doctors, because of having more knowledge, they may write more information. I have seen in my experience, 95% success rate is with the people from non-medical background, because of that alien nature to the subjects, they would like to confine themselves to certain limitations. That's why they were able to write answers in the prescribed time format or prescribed time period. డాక్టర్లు మాకు తెలుసు కదా ఉన్నదంతా రాస్తారు, కానీ పేపర్లు ఎవాల్యుయేట్ చేసేది డాక్టర్లు కాదుగా, ఆంథ్రోపాలజిస్టులు. వీళ్ళు రాసిందంతా వాళ్ళకి నచ్చకపోవచ్చు కూడా. ఎవరో సైంటిస్ట్ జగదీష్ చంద్రబోస్ అనుకుంటా, ఆయన ఒక ఫిజిక్స్ టాపిక్ మీద ఒక ఆర్టికల్ రాస్తే వాళ్ళ లెక్చర్ దాన్ని కొట్టేసి మార్క్స్ 0 వేస్తాడు. తర్వాత ఆ ఆర్టికల్ని ప్రొఫెసర్స్ ఐడెంటిఫై చేసి అతనికి అప్రిషియేషన్ ఇస్తారు. అంటే నీకు ఎంత నాలెడ్జ్ ఉన్నా పేపర్ దిద్దేవాడికి అంత నాలెడ్జ్ లేకపోతే అది వేస్ట్ అయిపోతుంది కదా. హియర్ ఆల్సో ది సేమ్ ప్రాబ్లం. ది డాక్టర్స్, because of having more knowledge, they are writing more information. That's why sometimes they are killing the time in the examination by writing more information. That's why they are not in a position to write answers to all those questions. But the remaining people, because of their alien nature to that particular subject, they draw certain limitations and they would like to confine themselves to those limitations. That's why most of the times they complete the answer writing within the prescribed time period, and that is the advantage also. But for understanding these concepts, your 10th class knowledge is sufficient. Under 10th class pass aitene ikkadiki vastaru. Aa 10th class knowledge chalu. If you know what is meant by cell, what is meant by nucleus, what is meant by chromosome, that is sufficient. You don't think that the people with medical background may have undue advantage. It's not so. Here we have to confine ourselves. Here the advantage or the beauty of physical anthropology is, if you write one answer, if your answer is correct, he has to allot marks. Why? Because this is full of science. There are many theories. Say for example, I'll tell you Lamarckism. You might have come across Lamarckism in your school days itself. Lamarck జిరాఫీ ఎట్లా వచ్చిందని ఒక పెద్ద కథ చెప్పు ఉంటాడు. ఆ గడ్డంతా అయిపోయి ఉంటుంది, మెడలో అట్లా సాగదీయంగా కొన్ని రోజులకు పెరిగి పెద్దది వచ్చింది, లామార్కిజం. ఇఫ్ యూ రైట్ దట్ థియరీ, హీ హ్యాస్ టు అలాట్ మార్క్స్, దట్స్ ఇట్. బట్ ఇన్ సోషల్ కల్చర్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ సో. వాట్ ఆర్ ది డిఫరెంట్ టైప్స్ ఆఫ్ మ్యారేజెస్ అన్నా అనుకోండి, యూ మే రైట్ డిఫరెంట్ టైప్స్ ఆఫ్, దెర్ ఆర్ ఎన్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ మ్యారేజెస్. But because of a space world limitation, you may write 4 or 5 varieties or 6 varieties. But examiner may feel that you missed one important variety. Then he may not get good marks. Or sometimes he may give question, what is the impact of industrialization on family? What is the impact of globalization on our society? Number of impacts are there. We may write a few impacts. Sometimes examiner may feel that you missed certain important points. From his point of view, certain points are important. From your point of view, certain points are important. There may be mismatch. That's why there are chances for giving less marks with respect to socio-cultural anthropology. But in physical anthropology, it is not so. That is science. Even in physical anthropology, you need not to meet that word limitation or word target. That means if there is one 10 marks question or if there is 320 marks question, you have to write answer in 250 to 300 words. But if your answer is correct, even if you write answer in 150 words, he has to allot marks. That's it. 20 మార్క్స్ క్వశ్చన్కి 250 to 300 వర్డ్స్లో ఆన్సర్ రాయాలి. కానీ మీ ఆన్సర్ కరెక్ట్గా ఉండి ఫుల్ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్, సైంటిఫిక్ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ ఉండి 150 వర్డ్స్లోనే మీరు ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారనుకోండి, లేదు నువ్వు 300 వర్డ్స్ రాయలేదు, నేను తక్కువ మార్కులు వేస్తా అంటే కుదరదు. హీ హ్యాస్ టు అలాట్ మార్క్స్. దేర్ యూ కెన్ సేవ్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్. That is the beauty of physical anthropology. In the examination, even if you write examination very well, the discretion of the examiner plays very important role. ఆ రోజు వాడి మూడ్ ఎట్లా ఉంటుంది అనేది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ రోల్ ప్లే చేస్తుంది. ఇక్కడ నేను మీకు తక్కువ మార్కులు వేసాను అనుకో, మీరు వచ్చి నన్ను అడుగుతారు, సార్ నాకు ఎందుకు తక్కువ వేసాను, అక్కడ పోయి అడుగుతారా? నో ఛాన్స్. That's why that discussion plays very important role. The scope of that discussion will be minimized because of this physical anthropology. That's why most of the times the successful candidates, they wrote 3 questions from section B and 2 questions from section A. I told you in the beginning, ultimately you have to write 2 questions from one section and 3 questions from another section. నువ్వు సోషో కల్చర్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ బాగా వచ్చు అనుకోండి, అప్పుడు దీని నుంచి 3 క్వశ్చన్స్ రాస్తాం, దీని నుంచి 2 రాస్తాం. అలాంటి ఫిజికల్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ బాగా వచ్చు అనుకోండి, దీని నుంచి 3 రాస్తాం, దీని నుంచి 2 రాస్తాం. But so far, based on our experience, we have observed that so far majority, not always correct, majority of the successful candidates, they have attempted 3 questions from physical anthropology. Why? Because this is full of science, and if you write a proper answer, you can save a lot of time, you can decrease the discretionary power of the examiner. That is the advantage. And this is about paper 1. In tomorrow's class, we'll start discussing the contents also. Okay. Paper 2, in tomorrow's class, I will explain paper 2 briefly. What is the subject content? It will be over in first 10 minutes. After that, we'll start the subject directly. Okay. Resources for you at this point of time, first try to understand the basics. Okay. For one topic, one source will be there. It's not possible for me to tell all the sources in this class. Already time is over. In tomorrow's class, I will tell you all the sources. Okay. But if you want to get good marks, you have to go through different sources. Okay. I'll tell you depending upon the chapter. When we start a particular chapter, then I will tell you this is the source. Like that. Okay. Have a nice day. రేపటి నుంచి షార్ప్గా 5 o'clock వచ్చేసాడు. ఓకే, 5 to 6 టైం అంటే టైమే. ఓకేనా? నేను 4:30కి వచ్చాను కానీ రాలేదని చెప్పేసి వెయిట్ చేశా. ఓకే, ఫస్ట్ రోజు కదా వస్తూ ఉంటారని చెప్పేసి 5 అంటే 5కి రండి, 6 అంటే 6కి వస్తాను. ఓకేనా? How many of you have decided to take anthropology?